We are getting some breaking news in the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie.
Search for Nancy Guthrie.
Subscribe right now. Hit that notification bell, turn on all notifications, because on March 10th, a retired FBI special agent posted something to X that stopped the true crime community in its tracks. Her name is Jennifer Coffin-Doffer. She spent years inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation. She has worked cases like this one from the inside. She knows how federal investigations move. She knows what law enforcement's silence means. She knows the difference between a case losing momentum and a case quietly building toward an arrest. And what she posted on March 10th was not a theory. It was not speculation. It was a question from someone who already knows the answer. She wrote, "I'm wondering why Sheriff Nanos keeps turning away proven and capable civilian search experts like the United Cajun Navy and EquiSearch. Is law enforcement close to an arrest, and do they already know what happened to Nancy so they do not want to waste the valuable resources of these groups?" Breaking developments are beginning to surface in the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. Not dramatic announcements, not public arrests, but something quieter, something that seasoned investigators recognize immediately when they see it. On March 10th, a retired FBI special agent posted a message that sent a ripple through the true crime community. Her name is Jennifer Coffin-Doffer. She is not a YouTube commentator. She is not a podcast personality. She is not speculating from the outside. She spent years inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation. She understands the internal rhythm of federal cases. She understands how silence works. She understands what contraction means. She understands what happens when a case moves from a broad search mode into targeted closing mode. And what she posted that day was not random. It was a question, but not the kind of question that comes from confusion. It was the kind of question that comes from recognition. She wrote that she was wondering why Sheriff Chris Nanos continues to turn away experienced civilian search organizations like the United Cajun Navy and EquiSearch. And then she asked something more pointed. Is law enforcement close to an arrest? Do they already know what happened to Nancy? And then she added 4 words that have been circulating ever since. Half glass full, hoping law enforcement is getting closer. That sentence did not land as casual optimism. It landed as interpretation, because when someone who has built federal investigations for a living looks at law enforcement behavior and sees proximity, it deserves attention. Tonight, we are not speculating, we are analyzing. We are going through the signals one by one, because when you step back and examine what is actually happening, not what headlines are suggesting,
the structure of this case looks very different from what many people assume. Before we break down the signals, it is important to understand why Coffin-Doffer's voice carries weight. She spent her career inside the same machinery that is now operating in Tucson. She knows how task forces restructure. She knows what it means when large visible presence shrinks. She knows the difference between a case fading and a case compressing. And in this investigation, what she sees is compression. Let's start with the moment that triggered her post. The United Cajun Navy submitted a formal offer to assist in search operations. And this was not a casual volunteer request. This was a 41-page operational plan. Thermal drones capable of scanning desert terrain at night, 25 trained search canines, structured grid search deployment teams, experienced desert personnel. But this organization has assisted in major national search operations before, and they offered everything formally to the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Nanos did not accept. He did not publicly engage. His office issued a brief statement saying, "The work is best left to professionals." That sentence can be interpreted in 2 very different ways. The first interpretation is simple jurisdictional control, a sheriff maintaining command integrity during an active federal investigation. That is entirely reasonable. The second interpretation is more strategic. That physical search operations are no longer the priority because the investigation has moved beyond terrain and into trace. If law enforcement believes they already know where this case is heading, expanding civilian search operations across desert miles becomes inefficient. You do not deploy drones and canines when you are narrowing suspects. You deploy analysts, and that is exactly what appears to be happening. This is the first signal. The second signal came directly from Sheriff Nanos himself. In a national interview, he stated investigators are definitely closer to identifying the suspects seen in surveillance footage. Definitely closer.
That phrasing is unusually strong. Law enforcement officials typically avoid definitive language in active investigations. Like they say progress, they say developments, they say working leads. They rarely say definitely. Former FBI officials reacted differently to that phrasing. Some called it atypical, others recognized it as narrowing language. In federal investigations, once investigators move past sorting random tips and into verifying specific suspects, language shifts subtly. You move from volume to focus, from intake to elimination, from searching to tracing. That shift appears to have occurred. The third signal is structural. Early in the case, the FBI presence in Tucson was massive. Hundreds of agents, a 24-hour command post, round-the-clock visible operations. That presence has since reduced. To some observers, that reduction suggests that cooling momentum. That reading misunderstands federal operations. What has happened instead is consolidation. 4 Pima County detectives and a sergeant are now assigned full-time to the FBI task force inside the Tucson field office.
Not rotating, not peripheral, dedicated. That is not a wind-down structure, that is a focused strike structure. When cases move from public search mode into evidence-building mode, teams shrink and sharpen. Noise is removed. Only actionable leads remain. That is what compression looks like. The fourth signal involves forensic progression. Annie Guthrie's vehicle, which had been held for forensic processing, has been returned. Vehicles are not released amid investigation unless forensic extraction is complete. Either nothing relevant was found, or everything relevant has already been extracted, processed, and incorporated into the case file. That means that phase is done. Forensic phases do not end casually. They end when analysis is complete. And once complete, investigators move forward with what they have. The fifth signal may be the most critical: Coffendorfer's assessment of the surveillance suspect. She has studied the footage extensively, and she said something that stands out. He is very identifiable. Not vague, not ambiguous, identifiable. She pointed specifically to the eyebrows, the mustache, the attire, and the pinky ring. Let's pause on that. A pinky ring is not generic. It is habitual, it is personal style, it is something worn regularly. Sheriff Nanos confirmed he sees it, even through gloves. Someone recognizes that. Someone has seen that ring. That detail narrows the suspect pool dramatically. The sixth signal is psychological. The reward now sits at approximately $1.2 million. Large coordinated crimes rarely remain sealed when that kind of incentive exists. Conspiracies require trust. Money destabilizes trust. Former FBI agents have stated repeatedly that multi-person operations often fracture from within. All it takes is one person who decides silence is no longer worth it, and at $1.2 million, silence becomes expensive. The seventh signal involves retail trace. The Ozark Trail 25-liter backpack worn by the suspect is sold exclusively at Walmart. Investigators have obtained purchase records, every transaction, every SKU, every timestamp. If purchased with a traceable payment method, there is a digital trail. If purchased with cash, surveillance footage exists. This is not guesswork. Retail forensic tracing is systematic, finite, and capable of producing names. The eighth and final signal is digital convergence. Cell tower data from January 11th, January 23rd, February 1st. Devices that appeared more than once. Devices that appeared only on the night of the abduction. Wi-Fi probe requests potentially captured by Nancy's router. Smartphones constantly ping for known networks. If a device entered range, it may have left a signature. De-authentication signals used to disable cameras are being mapped. Direction, timing, proximity, all of this is active analysis. When you combine all of these signals, what emerges is not stagnation, it is tightening, compression, focused narrowing. Coffendorfer has compared this trajectory to another case, Brian Kohberger. Weeks of apparent quiet, then DNA convergence, then cell data alignment, then arrest. That case turned decisively in week 5. This investigation is beyond that mark, which brings us back to the beginning. A retired FBI special agent watching from the outside, reading behavior, reading structure, reading silence, and concluding something is building, not fading, building. This is not a promise of immediate arrest. It is recognition of pattern, and patterns matter.
If you know the individual in that surveillance footage, if you recognize those eyebrows, that mustache, that ring, if you have seen someone in your life change behavior since January 31st, there is a $1.2 million reason to make a call. Because compression eventually reaches its endpoint, and when it does, it happens quickly. Because compression is not just a feeling, it is procedural. When a case moves from visible activity to silent intensity, the public often mistakes that silence for stagnation. But inside a task force environment, silence usually means something very specific. It means analysts are working. It means data is being processed. It means suspects are being narrowed. And it means investigators are careful about what they say publicly, because what they know privately has begun to take shape. Let's talk about digital convergence in deeper detail, because this is where modern cases are won. Every cell phone that was active in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood during the abduction window left a footprint, every single one. Cell tower handshake records, carrier logs, ping timestamps, sector coverage mapping. These records do not rely on voluntary disclosure. They are stored automatically by telecom providers. When federal subpoenas are issued, and they were, investigators receive datasets that show which devices were active within specific sectors during specific time windows. But it doesn't stop there. The power of that data is not just who was present on February 1st, it is who was present more than once. January 11th, January 23rd, February 1st. Any device that appears on multiple dates becomes significant because surveillance patterns are rarely one-night events. Crimes like this are rehearsed, tested, timed. Anyone who appeared near Nancy's home on January 11th when a suspicious individual was reportedly seen, and then again on February 1st, becomes an immediate focus. And here's where the pressure increases. Investigators are not just looking at presence, they're looking at behavior. Was the phone stationary, moving slowly, circling the block, powering off at critical times? Patterns inside patterns. And that type of analysis does not take years, it takes weeks. Which brings us to another layer, Wi-Fi probe requests. Most people do not realize their phone constantly broadcasts search signals looking for known networks. When your phone searches for Wi-Fi, it sends out identifiers. If Nancy's router captured probe requests that night, those signals may include the name of the suspect's home network. And if investigators obtain that identifier, they can trace it. Internet service providers, billing addresses, physical residents. That is not theory, that is standard digital forensic procedure. Now, add another layer. The deauthentication device, the tool used to disrupt nearby cameras. That device does not simply knock out video randomly, it emits a signal. That signal has a range. When investigators map which cameras went offline and at what time, they can triangulate movement. If camera A went dark at 2:12 a.m., camera B at 2:13, camera C at 2:14, that sequence reveals direction, it reveals path, it reveals approximate distance from Nancy's home at specific timestamps. That map becomes a physical reconstruction, and when you combine that reconstruction with cell tower positioning data, the margin of error shrinks dramatically. This is why compression matters, because when digital reconstruction and cell records begin to overlap, investigators are no longer guessing, they're confirming. Now let's talk about the backpack again, because it is not just about Walmart, it is about traceability. Every SKU in a retail system is time-stamped. If purchased with a debit or credit card, investigators have a name. If purchased with cash, they have a store location and a time window. Walmart stores are saturated with surveillance cameras, registers, entrances, self-checkout kiosks.
That footage is archived, and federal requests override standard retention timelines. Even if the suspect believed cash insulated them, cameras exist. Facial recognition technology is not hypothetical in federal cases, it is operational. Now, consider something else, the holster positioning. Coffindaffer specifically mentioned the incorrect positioning of the holster. That detail suggests something about the suspect's background, and individuals with formal firearms training wear holsters correctly. Incorrect positioning can indicate imitation rather than experience. That narrows behavioral profiling. Now, think about the pinky ring again.
a habitual accessory worn consistently. Friends notice that. Coworkers notice that. Family notices that. Someone in the suspect's life saw the FBI images and felt their stomach drop. The question is whether that person has made the call yet, and this is where the reward pressure becomes strategic. Multi-person crimes require communication. Communication leaves digital trails, text logs, deleted messages, call history, location sharing. Even if encrypted messaging platforms were used, metadata exists, timing patterns exist, cross-device synchronization logs exist. When $1.2 million is publicly attached to a case, communication within a conspiracy becomes strained. People argue, people panic, people make mistakes, and investigators know this. They monitor behavioral shifts, sudden cash withdrawals, travel plans, changes in routine, attempts to discard electronics. Those are not hypothetical markers, they are active watch points. Now, let's return to Sheriff Nanos's comment that investigators have information they have not shared. That statement carries weight. Law enforcement does not withhold irrelevant information, they withhold leverage. If investigators know something that only the suspect would recognize, a detail not released publicly, they preserve it. That detail becomes a confirmation tool during interrogation. It becomes a way to test cooperation. It becomes a way to validate insider tips. Which brings us back to Coffindaffer's interpretation. She is not reacting emotionally, she is reading operational posture. And the posture suggests narrowing because when civilian search teams are turned away, when visible agent presence shrinks but task force assignments remain, when vehicles are returned, when digital mapping intensifies, when reward pressure increases, when language shifts from general to definite, that combination rarely signals drift. It signals approach. Approach to what? Identification. And once identification is firm, the final steps move quickly. Surveillance, trash pulls, DNA comparison, search warrants, arrest. That sequence is not dramatic, it is procedural, and it is often quiet until the final moment. There is a psychological stage in investigations like this. Either the suspect believes they have succeeded, weeks pass, no arrest, no knock at the door, confidence builds, routine returns, and then one morning, without warning, law enforcement arrives. That is the stage this case may be entering. Not speculation, pattern recognition. Coffindaffer referenced the Koberger case for a reason, because it followed this arc precisely. Weeks of quiet, digital convergence, DNA confirmation, sudden custody. We are beyond the timeline that case followed, and forensic labs are actively processing material in this one, which leads to the final element we have not fully explored yet, DNA. Because if genetic genealogy returns a viable lead, if mixed samples resolve into identifiable contributors, if even partial familial matches begin to narrow, the compression ends, and the next headline is not speculation, it is a name. This investigation is not loud, it is not chaotic, it is structured, and structured cases do not fade, they close, because there is one element that ultimately determines whether a case like this breaks quietly or explodes publicly. DNA. Not speculation, not behavioral interpretation, not digital mapping. DNA is confirmation, and right now that process is active. Multiple sources have confirmed that biological evidence recovered from the property is being processed at a private forensic laboratory.
Private labs are often used in high-profile cases for one reason: speed. They operate without the backlog pressures that public crime labs face, which means analysis timelines shrink. Now consider what Sheriff Nanos has publicly acknowledged. He stated that some of the biological evidence recovered appears to be a mixed sample. Mixed samples are complicated. They contain DNA from more than one contributor, but they are not useless. Far from it. Modern forensic software can deconvolute mixed samples. It can separate partial profiles. It can isolate unique markers. And once those markers are isolated, investigators can run them through national databases. If there is a direct match in CODIS, that is immediate identification. If there is not, the next step is genetic genealogy. That process does not require a suspect's DNA to already be in the system. It requires familial overlap, distant cousins, shared ancestry markers, common genetic branches.
This is exactly how the Kohberger case turned. Investigators did not have his DNA in a criminal database. They had a partial genealogical link. And from that link, they built a family tree. They narrowed branches, eliminated possibilities, isolated a single individual whose age, location, and behavior profile aligned. Then they conducted a trash pull, recovered discarded DNA, confirmed the match, and moved. That sequence is textbook modern investigative methodology, and it is available in this case. Now consider something else. If this crime involved more than one person, as multiple former agents have suggested is possible, mixed DNA becomes even more powerful, because mixed samples imply presence, and presence implies participation. If two profiles emerge from forensic separation, investigators are not looking for a ghost. They are looking for two human beings, two devices, two digital trails, two social networks. And when you identify one, the second often follows through association. Now step back and look at the pressure environment. 6 weeks of sustained federal involvement, millions of dollars in reward money, national media coverage, digital forensic convergence, retail tracing, cell tower mapping, Wi-Fi probe analysis, camera disruption mapping, and active DNA processing. That is not a cold case trajectory. That is a tightening one. But there is another element that cannot be ignored. The allegation that someone was paid for inside information. That claim changed the tone of this investigation, because random crimes look different from funded crimes. Funded crimes require planning. Planning requires communication. Communication requires trust. And trust erodes under pressure. If someone inside provided security layout details, routine timing, camera placement information, that person exists, and that person knows the risk they are carrying. Because insider participation transforms a case legally. It shifts from opportunistic to conspiracy. And conspiracy carries heavier consequences. The longer this investigation runs, the more strain builds inside any coordinated operation. People talk, people fear, people second guess. Someone may already be cooperating quietly. That possibility cannot be dismissed. Law enforcement rarely reveals cooperation until arrest, and cooperation often explains why cases move from broad search to narrow targeting. Now let's return to Jennifer Coffin-Daffer one final time, because what she did on March 10th was not prediction, it was recognition. She watched a sheriff decline civilian search expansion. She observed task force consolidation. She listened to language shift toward certainty. She saw digital forensic activity intensify, and she interpreted those behaviors through the lens of someone who has built cases exactly like this. Her conclusion was simple: half glass full, hoping law enforcement is getting closer. That is not optimism without basis. That is pattern alignment. Investigations like this do not break loudly. They break precisely. The suspect believes weeks have passed safely. Routine resumes, confidence builds, and then one morning, before sunrise, vehicles arrive quietly. No press release, no warning, just movement. And suddenly the public silence makes sense. If this case follows that arc, it will not be dramatic until it is decisive. And when it happens, it will feel sudden. But it will not be sudden. It will be the result of 6 weeks of compression, 6 weeks of mapping, tracing, analyzing, comparing, and waiting for the final confirmation. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. That fact has not changed. Her family is still waiting. That reality has not softened. But what may have changed, what may be changing right now, is the distance between evidence and identification, the distance between suspicion and confirmation, the distance between silence and action. If you know something, if you recognize those identifying features, if someone in your life has behaved differently since January 31st, this is the moment to act. Because compression does not last forever, it resolves. And when it resolves completely. Justice in cases like this does not move loudly, it moves methodically. And methodical pressure is the kind that eventually breaks through. We are in week 6. DNA is being processed. Digital records are being compared. Retail purchases are being traced. Communication patterns are being mapped. Reward pressure is mounting. The question is not whether movement is happening. The question is how close it is to completion. And if Jennifer Poffendaffer's reading is correct, we may be closer than it appears.